Happy Friday, fellow wine lovers. Stephanie Miskew here, certified sommelier and author of The Glamorous Gourmet, here with you live on this fabulous and spooky Friday the 13th with my weekly wine picks. So I'm so happy you could join me today. I have some fun wines planned for you today. And I thought today would be actually the perfect day to celebrate the 5th annual Merlot Month. And yes, you heard me, I did say Merlot. This grape is actually quite amazing, and I want to talk about why it should no longer be the Kathy Griffin of wine. Because let's face it, we all remember the movie back in 2004, the movie Sideways, that basically cast Merlot down into pariah status when Miles simply uttered the phrase, and I quote, "I'm not drinking any fucking Merlot." And with that movie, the wine world was really changed forever. And Merlot went from being one of the most widely planted, widely sold grapes anywhere to being, again, that vinous pariah that nobody wanted. And at the same time, Pinot Noir was catapulted to this amazing stardom, which it still really maintains today. So it's quite interesting the way things have progressed. But time will only tell if Kathy Griffin deserves a second chance, but I'm here to tell you why I know that Merlot does. This is really an amazing grape. It's capable of producing just amazing wines with beautiful, plush, lush, usually dark and some red fruit that can be have beautiful tannic and acid structure. It originated in France in the Bordeaux region, where it still remains one of the 5 classic Bordeaux grape varieties, but it's also grown in such exciting areas of the world, like obviously California, Washington State, New York, Texas, Virginia, not to mention Italy, Australia, and South Africa. So it's really making a comeback, and for good reason. It really has a lot to offer. And while it started out as part of a blended wine, a Bordeaux blend, so it's great for blending, but Merlot can also be used to make a varietal wine that's 100% Merlot, and we'll be trying one of those later too. So again, welcome to the show. We have a fun little tasting planned, and if you can hear me, this is where I'm just checking in with everyone. If you can hear me, either throw up a little emoji, a thumbs up, or a heart, or let me know where you're watching from. I like to know before we dive in. So let's see. All right, so let me tell you a little bit about our super simple format before we dive in. Each Friday at 5 p.m. I share with you 4 wines on our theme, and during while I'm tasting through the wines, oh awesome, hey there, actually let me pull you up on so I can see who's watching along. I hope everyone's having a great Friday. Oh, there we go. Great. Awesome. Yeah, and as you're joining, if you want to say hi or again tell me where you're watching from, that would be great. So the format, I taste through 4 wines. Feel free to ask any questions while you're watching, and I'd like to keep it to about 30 minutes, 40 minutes. But, if you want to ask more questions, that's fine too. Also, if you happen to be watching this after the live broadcast, please go ahead and leave comments and questions just like you would if you were watching live, because I monitor these for a few weeks afterwards, and I'd love to get back to you and answer your question or respond to your comment. So just a reminder to keep in mind as you watch, and thanks so much for joining us. So like I said, today we're going to be tasting through some amazing Merlots I'm excited to share with you. And we're going to start off our tasting in California, and I'm a little heavy on the California wines just as a shout out to the folks out in California who are having such a hard time this week with all the fires going on, and particularly Sonoma. A good friend of mine just had to evacuate her home there, and it's just, our prayers go out to you all. It's been I can only imagine what it's been like. So I've got 2 California Merlots with us, and The first one, as always, I have 2 steels and 2 splurges, but I'm going to start out with the steels. And our first one comes from a name who is known to produce some of the best Merlot in all of California, and that would be Duckhorn. So back in the 1980s, they came out with their line of wine called Decoy. That is an amazing steel. And let me see if I can flip the screen for you and show you the awesome label. There you go. It's the Decoy Sonoma County Merlot. And you gotta love that label with the artwork is just beautiful. And this wine is such a steal, my friends, at $25 a bottle. It's really amazing and such amazing quality. And that was the thought behind it, because the Duckhorn wines can be pricey for good reason. So they wanted to make an everyday wine, you know, that offered amazing quality at an amazing price. So they've definitely done that in this Merlot. The Duckhorns, gosh, have been making wine for over 3 decades, I think. And like I said, the Decoy wines came along about in the 1980s. But again, it's just one of my favorite everyday Merlots. And yeah, $25 a bottle, 13.9% alcohol, but it is delicious. And I've poured myself some here right now. This wine is a blend of 92% Merlot, 4% Cab Franc, 2% Cabernet Sauvignon, and 2% Petit Syrah that's been 10 months in 100% French oak. Now, why is Merlot blended with other grapes, you might ask? And that's a very good question. Merlot tends to be plush and lush and have lots of fruity notes. So when you blend it with another grape, like say Cabernet Sauvignon, the Cabernet Sauvignon brings the structure and the tannin to the wine. So the 2 grapes really balance each other out very well. And kind of when you blend, that's why all the wines of Bordeaux, it's called a Bordeaux blend. Each grape included in the blend brings a little something different to the party. So again, this wine is predominantly Merlot, but it's got, you know, some other wines in there to kind of round it out a little bit. So when I do a tasting, as those of you know who've joined me before, I like to do the 6 S's, which are see, swirl, sniff, sip, swish, and savor. I'm always relieved when I remember all of them. So let's go ahead with this wine, and we're going to look first at the wine, and I'm going to swirl it for you here with the white background. A white background is always ideal when you're evaluating wine. And you can see this wine is a dense purple color. It's very purple. It's quite opaque. I cannot read through it. I wouldn't say it's as dense as Cabernet Sauvignon, but it's up there. Like, yeah, I'm not reading through it. And it's pretty consistent from the core, which is the middle, to the rim. So again, it's pretty dense, but you know what? It looks like a young, fresh Merlot from the 2015 vintage would look. So that's just what I'm looking for. There's no browning around the edges, nothing floating in it. That might suggest, the browning would suggest it might have been oxidized or exposed to heat. And there's no cork in it or anything like that. So we're going to proceed on to swirl and sniff. Now, I like to pair these 2 together because swirling aerates the wine and like turns the volume up on the aromas. And then as soon as you've swirled, you stick your nose in the glass so you can take a couple nice deep breaths and get a sense for what the wine is about. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. And if you are drinking a glass of Merlot at home, does anyone out there have something in your glass? Because if you do, please go ahead and tell me in the comment section. Or if you have a question during any of the wines I'm tasting, just go ahead and pop them in the comment section and I would love to answer them for you. Oh, awesome. Okay, so let me go ahead and, oh, gorgeous. Yes, it's very fragrant. The aromas have a really nice intensity to them. And on the nose, I'm getting notes of red and black fruit. Definitely some spice from the oak, which contributes those baking spice notes like clove and nutmeg to a wine. I'm definitely getting some of that. And a little balsamic note, a little balsamic strawberry note to it as well. That's also very lovely. So now I'm going to move on to sip and swish, which is not just sipping the wine, but it's very important to kind of swish it around your mouth when you're learning to taste wine. It might not be the most attractive thing that you do, but if you really want to get a sense for what that wine is like, you really need it to hit all your taste buds. So watch as I demonstrate. Yeah, see, when I swish it around my mouth, I can really get a sense for the wine's tannins and acid, which it's very balanced. It has beautiful amounts of both. My taste buds light up a little bit, meaning it's a great food-friendly wine. Very balanced, and yes, I'm definitely getting those notes of black cherry and a little bit of bitter fruit, red fruit from the pomegranate, which is nice. Cranberry, plum, and on the finish, a nice note of cocoa powder, which who doesn't love that, right? So yeah, that is just, I'm telling you, if I was tasting this blind, I'd probably guess it was a more expensive wine. It's very, very nice. And the tannins are well integrated. The tannins aren't so aggressive, so it's perfect for drink. I love to see a thumbs up. Let me just check and see if anyone else is joining. But yeah, so that is just a well-made, delicious bottle of wine that for $25 is a great buy. That is a steal for $25, and from one of the amazing winemaking families. Thumbs up, I love it. Thanks for that. I'm trying to see who's there. For some reason it's not showing me. If you can hear me right now, just leave in the comments section like a hello or a hi, so I know you're there. Normally it'll post who's kind of coming in, but I can't really tell. So always great to hear from you guys, so that would be great. Oh, maybe I need to do this. Hold on. Okay, we'll see. So yes, our first Merlot is just delicious. Again, it's the Decoy Sonoma County Merlot from Sonoma. And all the Decoy wines are from Sonoma County. They really highlight fruit from that region, which is very nice. Okay, wow, that is a beauty. All right, so moving on to our next. Oh, and I forgot to mention the 6th S, which is, it's spit or savor. And because it's Friday, professionally I would spit, but because it's Friday, I always like to savor these wines. So, especially when they're this good. Okay, so our second Merlot comes to us from another very popular region for Merlot, which is Washington State. So we're still here in the States. Oh, hey Marie, thanks for saying hi. So glad you could join us. Awesome. All right, let me flip this. It's very technical. It's the L'École number 41 Columbia Valley Merlot. And look at that label. That's the schoolhouse that's on the property. That's just a great inspiration for them. Very historic. They've been making wine again about 30 years in this region. And originally they thought that Washington was too cold to grow Merlot. Actually, they thought it was too cold to grow most red grape varieties. But it turns out it's actually in the eastern edge, or the eastern part of the state. You can actually grow beautiful grapes to make red wine from. So Merlot has done extremely well in Washington State, and they do a particularly great job. And this bottle, it's the L'École number 41 Columbia Valley Merlot from Washington State, 2014 vintage. Again, $25 a bottle. It's a real steal. 14.5% alcohol. I just like to add that because people generally like to know if you drink a lot of red wine. But again, just a very well-respected winery for sure. And how great to find out that, yes, you can in fact grow amazing red wines or make amazing red wines in Washington. The winery was founded in 1983. They're the third oldest winery in the region. They're located in the Walla Walla Valley. 2014 was another great vintage, a little warm like 2013, so producing very nice wines. Each lot of the grapes was hand harvested and gently crushed into large stainless fermenters. And then, let's see, let me get to the blend part. It's a blend of 80% Merlot, 10% Cab Franc, 7% Malbec, and 3% Petit Verdot from some amazing vineyards. We've got the Seven Hills Vineyard, Bacchus and Dionysus, Clipson. So the grapes were taken from different vineyards to go into this wine, but these are very, very well-respected vineyards. So you know you've got a quality, great wine on your hands already. And actually, as we get to our next wine, that's going to come in handy. Our first two wines, which are our steals, they're $25 a bottle, we're able to get them at such a good price because they pick fruit from different vintages or vineyards. The minute you get into wines where there's one vineyard listed on the label, that's when the price starts to bump up. And we're going to get into that with our next wine. But let's focus on this one for now. So we know it's a little bit of a blend. Let's go ahead and run through our S's. Anyway, let's see. All right, so let's do C first. And if you can see it along the white background, again, we've got a bright purple, beautiful, gorgeous wine. It's purple, maybe with a little garnet hue to it, but again, and it's pretty dense in color. Again, not as opaque as I would expect Cabernet Sauvignon to be, but it's still pretty darn opaque. I'm not reading through this wine for sure. But anyway, it's a gorgeous bright color, no browning. Looks like I want to go ahead and move into swirl and sniff, which I'm going to do now. Ah, oh, so nice. Beautiful. And on the nose, gosh, I'm getting beautiful notes. Red and black fruit. I'm getting a little more dark fruit in this wine than I was the previous wine. A little more cassis, a little bit of a violet note, which I always love a floral note in wines. But again, it's just lovely. The way it smells really gives me a great insight about what I can expect it to taste like. And I definitely want to move on to sip and swish. Sorry, I can't help but make the yum noise. Oh, hold on. I got a comment. Let me see. Much lighter in color than previous wine. Yes, definitely, Marie. That's a great, I'm glad you caught up on that. It is. It is. It's dark in the core, but this one actually gets a little lighter as it goes out to the edges. That's awesome that you picked up on that. Hey, Tom. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. I got to give Marie a gold star because she picked up on the color, and that's absolutely right. So glad you could join us. Oh, and John says, Veronica and I opened a Chateau Petit Village to join you. Awesome. I'm so glad you could join. Tell your beautiful wife I said hello. Hi, Debbie. Happy Friday to you. I get so caught up in tasting the wine, I forget to respond. But absolutely, just shoot comments anytime you want. So I think I just tasted the wine. Did I taste it? Better be sure. Let me have another taste. Yeah. Okay, that is more delicious. Again, you got to swish it around your mouth to really coat your mouth to get the real sense of what the wine is about. This one has beautiful notes. This is more dark fruit. Black cherry, blueberry, that cassis thing I was picking up on the nose is there. It's got like grippy tannins, not too much, but just enough for those of you who like, and again, that acid's like making my mouth water. But really, really a beautifully made wine. A little bit of cranberry. And you know what? On the finish, another characteristic of Merlot is you can get a little mint or a little menthol note to it. And on the finish of this, I don't get it when I initially take the sip, but on the finish, it's just a little bit of mint on the finish, which is quite nice. It really kind of brings the wine together and ties everything together. But again, another beautiful wine from Washington State. And again, for $25 a bottle, it's a total steal. And again, it was the L'École number 41 Columbia Valley Merlot from Washington State. And I'll post all of these later for you on my website, and I'll link out to it on my Facebook page. All right, any comments about any of the wines so far? Do any of you have favorite Merlots you like to drink? I'd love to know about it if you do, and just go ahead and pop them in the comment section. Also, since we're halfway through, if you are watching this broadcast after it was live, after the live broadcast, please go ahead and leave comments and questions as if you were watching it live, because I still monitor the conversation and I'd love to get back to you on any questions or comments you might have. So, again, since it's Friday, I think I'll take another sip. Ooh, that's good. Wonderful. Okay. So any questions? Let me just check real quick before we move along to our splurges. Gotta love a splurge. But you gotta love a steal too. Awesome. Ooh, I love thumbs up. Thank you, thank you. All right. Let's see. And I'd love to ask you all, are any of you guys watching, were you fans of Merlot maybe before the 2004, the movie Sideways? Did you like Merlot then, but maybe you've been reluctant to try it again now? If so, just a simple yes or no would do. But yeah, because I think a lot of us drank it beforehand, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, I'm not ordering that. But again, now I highly encourage you to give it another try, because the good thing is, after the crash, after it became passé and no one wanted it in anymore, they pulled up a lot of the vines that were grown in very unsuitable regions. Because back in at the heyday, people were growing Merlot vines anywhere they could plant them, because they knew it was so much in demand. They knew it was very lucrative to do so. So all these Merlot vines were planted, and the end result was this mass-produced wine that really had no character and was quite insipid and boring. So now all of those vines have been pulled up, and what remains are the true Merlot sites growing these beautiful Merlot vines. So now would be the best time to jump into enjoying Merlot. Oh, and let's see. Tom says, what is the best top region? Oops. Tom says, what is the best top region in U.S. for Merlot growth? That's a great question. California is number 1. Washington's probably number 2, right on its heels. But the beauty of it is that now they're growing Merlot in New York State, Texas, Virginia. These regions are really grabbing onto it and running with it. And they're doing quite nice examples in all of these places too. So you don't even have to go to any of the other places, but also Italy, Australia, and France, of course, are all making just beautiful examples. So I hope that helps. Oh, Monica says, I've always liked a good Merlot. Good for you, lady. I mean, if it's good, it's good. You can't argue with that. Okay. Oh, and John says, I have had more great Merlot in the last 3 or 4 years, excluding Pomerol. We're getting there, John, than ever before. Thank you for sharing that. John knows his wine. That's for darn sure. But yeah, right? I mean, now all the good stuff is left, and it's reasonably priced because the demand isn't so great, but it's probably going to be great again after the show, I think. But in any event. All right, let's move on to our splurges. And our first splurge, let me pour myself a little first, is, let me flip the screen. Okay, it's the St. Superi. Let's see. St. Superi Rutherford Estate Vineyard Merlot from the Napa Valley. It's the 2013 vintage. Gorgeous bottle for sure. It is $50 a bottle and 14.5% alcohol. I have to say the bottle's also a lot heavier than our previous two for sure. But again, like I said, this wine is a single vineyard designate wine. All the fruit comes from one vineyard. So when you see that on a wine label, they only put the name of the vineyard on there because it has a great reputation. So the minute you see that, immediately the price is going to go up for sure. But again, just a beautiful bottle of wine. And, did I see, what is the top vineyard? God, there's so many. But anyway, we'll talk about this one for now, and I'll come back and answer that later for sure. Okay. So St. Superi, again, I chose this wine also to demonstrate. This wine is from Napa. Our first wine was from Sonoma. So Napa also produces amazing examples of Merlot. And St. Superi is very special. The wine is 100% estate grown, sustainably farmed, located in the Rutherford AVA. It's in the heart of Napa Valley. Rutherford is quite a special place. Is anyone listening like Rutherford wines? Cabernets from the region, especially where this one is close to the Rutherford bench, are known for having a very distinct quality and having what they call that Rutherford dust. And the wines really do have a beautiful kind of dusty quality to them that you really have to experience to understand, but it's very, very beautiful. So that's where this wine is from. Very special place. And I had to highlight this wine also from a little bit of a fashion perspective, because while it was the winery was founded in the 1970s by the Scali family. 33 years later, it was sold to Chanel, as you can see here. So now the fashion company Chanel, yeah, thumbs up. So now the fashion company Chanel actually owns this winery. And I think they're purchasing a few more as well, which is kind of interesting. So in any event, this wine is a blend of 94% Merlot, 5% Cabernet Sauvignon, and 1% Cab Franc, aged in 100% French oak, 54% new for 19 months. And again, all the grapes are from the same vineyard. So let's go ahead and run through and see what we think. I think you can probably all see by looking at this wine, it's a bit denser than our previous two wines. A little more maybe denser purple. But again, yeah, it's quite dark. There's no, again, no reading through this wine. And it's pretty much the same color from the core out to the rim. So it's very consistent in color, absolutely. All right, but again, nothing looks wrong with it. We're going to proceed with our swirl and sniff. Beautiful. And Merlot, especially from New World wines, and by that I mean from the US and newer regions, they have this beautiful intensity of aroma and flavor that's just very nice. So yeah, it's, gosh, luscious dark fruit I'm getting on the nose. Very nice, like blackberry and that spicy note from the oak. That's just really delightful. Kind of perfumey and delicious. All right, so now I'm going to do sip and swish. And you know, a lot of people ask me, well, do I really need to spend more than like $20 a bottle for wine? Or like, is a bottle of wine that's $50 that much different? My mouth is still watering. Is a bottle of wine that's $50 really that much different from a wine that's, you know, $20? And not in every case, but I will tell you in this case, I mean, this is something very special, and you notice it in the complexity of flavor. You can see it just kind of layers unfold on your palate. And like this wine would probably be different an hour from now than it would be right now. But again, and how it's so balanced, the tannin, it's got beautiful tannin and acid going on that are just very balanced, and they complement the fruit going on perfectly. This is all juicy blackberry, plum, definitely dark chocolate for sure, not milk chocolate. It's got that beautiful spice notes from the French oak. And yeah, the balanced acid and tannin, that's lovely. And again, it's the complexity of the flavor and also the finish. Like, I'm still tasting this wine from the sip I took, what, 2 minutes ago? So those are kind of how you would tell. And I do think that certain wines, and again, I like to bring the wines to you that are great finds. Even at $50 a bottle, it still gives you great value for the price. And I mean, this is a really, really nice wine. It's just lovely with beautiful complexity. This one, I mean, they all have me craving food, and Merlot is pretty versatile depending on the style. Merlot can be done in an international style that's more kind of fruit forward and plush and lush, or it can be done in a more classic style that's more reserved with moderate alcohol and a little more restrained fruit flavors that might have more earth and a little more tannin to it. But depending on which type of Merlot you get, you know, you can pair it with a variety of foods. This one, I would pair, gosh, a beautiful roasted chicken, or even a, gosh, yeah, grilled duck or something. It's just beautiful. Very nice. All right, let me take another sip. Any questions about this wine so far? Has anyone had the Saint Superi Merlot or Merlot before? Let me know. Yeah, gotta love Chanel. Thanks, Connie. I appreciate that. I certainly do. Wonderful. Yeah, that's just delightful. Okay. So our fourth and final wine of the tasting comes from, no tasting of Merlot would be complete without a selection. I actually even got a special glass for this. From the right bank of Bordeaux. Of course, Merlot is one of the 5 Bordeaux grape varieties, but it grows specifically well on Bordeaux's right bank. So in Saint-Emilion and Pomerol. And this wine, our beautiful fourth wine in Splurge, I pulled this from our own little cellar. And John, I actually think you had something to do with me getting this wine. It's the Chateau La Fleur de Guay from Pomerol. It's a 2009 vintage. And I actually use my Coravin to get the wine out, which you can see. I don't know if, is anyone familiar with a Coravin? I have it here. It's actually a little contraption where you can insert this needle into the cork of the wine and use it to extract a glass without disturbing the wine. The wine won't go bad. So it's a really neat little tool. Actually, let me flip that back. But it's a super cool little gadget. I know with the holiday season coming up, the Coravin is a good one for wine lovers, especially the wine lover who has everything. Chances are they might not have the Coravin. So let's see, I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, so yeah, it's this beautiful bottle from Pomerol, gorgeous label. And again, the 2009 vintage. I've been hanging on to this one for a little bit. And the first vintage of this chateau is in 1983. And the initial few vintages included a little Merlot and Cab Franc, but eventually they weeded out the Cabernet Franc, and now their wines are 100% Merlot. So this wine in my glass is actually 100% Merlot. Old vine Merlot. I think the average ages of the vines is about 50 years. And again, the soils on the right bank, which are primarily clay, are much better suited to Merlot, whereas on the left bank, the gravelly soils are better for Cabernet Sauvignon. So Merlot really thrives on the right bank for sure. And I think this is a great example of what this grape can do in a totally different place. And again, like any grape, Merlot is going to express that terroir. It's going to reflect where it's from. So a Merlot from the right bank of Bordeaux is going to taste a lot different than a Merlot from Washington State or California. But if you're a fan of that grape, the fun part is getting to try it from all these different regions and deciding which one you like the best. So just so happens that the 2009 vintage of the Chateau La Fleur de Gay, it's about $100 a bottle, by the way. It's a little pricey. But it's considered one of the Chateau's best vintages ever. A man by the name of Alain Ranaud, who was a famed wine consultant, helped out with this vintage. And ironically, now his sister runs the estate. And a consultant that people may know named Michel Roland is now a consultant with them as well. But again, 100% Merlot, aged in 100% new French oak barrels for an average of 18 months before bottling. And let's go ahead and look at this wine. So we're going to look first. And if you can see, this wine is like a garnet, but it almost has a little bit of brownish color going on. And you might think, well, what the heck, what's going on there? Well, you know what? As wines age, they become lighter in color, and like purple wines become more garnet and brick colored. So this is actually what you would expect from a wine that's almost 10 years old. And it's quite opaque. There's no seeing through this wine, but around the edge is more of like a garnet color with like a little brownish hue. But again, that's what you would expect. So I'm not put off by this wine. Well, I've already tasted it, so I know I'm not put off with it. But even so, know to expect that in older wines. If you've had wines that are 20 years or older, in fact, that's what sediment is. If you've ever had a wine with sediment at the bottom of the bottle, those are tannins that precipitate out of the wine and they fall to the bottom, and it lightens up the color of the wine as well. So those are all normal things. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with the wine. That's just what happens as wines age. And they also lose their fruit. And what's interesting is Merlot, that's so known for producing fruit-forward wines, takes on a really special quality to it with age. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and do swirl and sniff. And I let this wine sit for like an hour or so. I tasted it initially, and then I couldn't wait to see how it changed. And on the nose, you get, gosh, it's really interesting. I wish you could smell it through the screen. It's got notes of like blueberry, but the spicy woodsy component of the wine is just fantastic. It's unlike anything else we've tasted today. And it's got some beautiful fig aromas to it. If you've ever had like fig jam or even just like a dried fig, it's got those aromas going on too. So thumbs up, thanks. So let's go ahead. I'm going to sip and swish. And again, it's just lovely. This wine makes you think. You want to kind of contemplate it because it's so different. It still has the tannic structure. I'm sure it's softer than when they bottled it, but beautiful tannins, beautiful acid. This wine would pair beautifully with like a roasted duck or something, or even like lamb chops or something like that. Just very subtle. Whereas the New World wines are a little more intense of flavor, and they're also younger, so that would explain it. But this wine is all subtle elegance and just quite different. The earthy, spicy aromas are more prevalent. And again, it's just a beautiful thing. I'm just going to check my notes. Yeah, it's blueberry, plum, woody and spicy. It's just very unique and a real treat for sure. So anybody have any questions about any of our wines today? Or are you inspired to try any of these or explore any particular regions? If so, I'd love to hear about it in the comments section. So, let's see. Tom asks, more sediment, less tannin. How about sugar? Would old wines show legs? Yes, older wines would still show legs. And yeah, the more the sediment, well, we know as wines age, their tannins round out. That's one of the reasons why we wait to drink wine, and why, if you've ever had a brand new Cabernet Sauvignon right out of the bottle, you grab it off the store shelf, bring it home, those tannins will strip the water out of your mouth. So what are the benefits of waiting? People want to know, well, why would I wait 10 years to drink a wine? Well, not only do the tannins round out, but the wine develops what we call tertiary aromas and flavors. And these are things that, wine, it's all chemistry that goes on in there. And as wines age, they develop aromas and flavors that they never would have on their own. They're things you wouldn't detect, when you just tasted them. So that's why we wait for wines to age. The tannins round out, the wine becomes better integrated, and it develops, again, these really unique aromas and flavors as a result of the aging process that the wine, you just can't appreciate that in the wine's younger state. So that's why we wait for wines to age. And also, as the wine ages, it loses its fruit. So if you like a fruit-forward wine, you might not like aged wine. I think everyone thinks they're supposed to like an aged, older wine, when that's not the case. If you like those really prevalent fruit aromas and flavors, maybe wait 5 years, but after 10, you're talking about a big drop-off in the fruit of a wine. So a lot of stuff is going on in that bottle as it's laying there on your, on your rack or whatever. But yeah, those things definitely are the byproduct of waiting for wines to age. So, well, I hope these wines have maybe inspired you to give Merlot a second chance. And maybe this weekend you'll go grab a bottle and do a little of your own exploring. Also, if you go to your local wine store and they don't have any of these particular wines, just if there was one in particular that stood out to you, ask them for a wine that's similar to that. If they're a wine retailer worth their salt, they'll be able to pretty much match that wine in terms of price and quality and flavor profile. So I hope you have fun with that. And if you do, or if you discover a Merlot that you particularly like, come back and leave a comment here. I'd love to hear about it, because as I've said many times before, wine's always more fun when you're talking about it with people and enjoying it. So of course I'd love to hear. So any questions? Let's see. I hope I answered your question, Tom. I think so. Well, if you think of something later, like I said, come back. Otherwise, I'll be back next Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then we're going to be talking about some fabulous date night wines. The weather's getting a little chilly out, and anyway, might feel like getting a little romantic or going out on a date. So I'm going to have some awesome wines for you to enjoy next week. Again, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And in the meantime, if you'd like to sign up to receive my weekly newsletter that has, all my events and other things going on, just message me your email address and I will go ahead and add you to our list. But again, if there aren't any questions, thank you, Tom. Great show. I couldn't have done it without you. So thank you so much for joining in today. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Cheers.